Hello and welcome. It's Francis here. Thank you for coming back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I bid thee welcome. There is a subscribe button and a bell below if you want to be notified as to when I upload more content. And by subscribing, you help support this channel. I'm coming to you from Ghana country. As such, I acknowledge the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains as being the traditional custodians of this land. So this is just going to be a very short video on the coming full moon, which will be on the 3rd of July at 9:08 p.m. here in Adelaide, South Australia, and it will be 11 degrees, 18 minutes of Capricorn. And added to that, it's also going to be what's called a supermoon. This is because on its ecliptic around the Earth that the moon travels in, it's at one of the closest points to the Earth. So if you can see the moon on the 3rd, it's going to appear probably larger and brighter than other moons. And last year we had a whole string of supermoons. So it will be quite interesting because with the moon being larger and brighter, it tends to sort of imply that emotions will be more sort of heated, coming to a head. There's also an increase in systematic potentials, and as such, also being a full moon, a sense of completion, a sense of closure. So it's good to look at your astrological chart if you have a natal chart, see where 11 degrees, 18 minutes in Capricorn falls, and in particular what house it's in, because it is the house that gives us more of an idea as to what we should be looking at, and in this case, what should be coming to a close. So when it's a full moon, the moon and the sun are opposites. So this means that when the moon is in Capricorn, the sun is actually going to be in Cancer. And as such, because the moon just reflects the sun's light, it is going to almost sort of highlight or expose something that maybe in your chart you haven't noticed before. And yeah, it really depends on how you interpret this Capricorn energy. Capricorn is, so it's the sea goat or the mountain goat. Traditionally, it's more of the sea goat, so it's got sort of watery aspect to it. But there's also this building, this manifesting of the new, this building for the long term. And this also means encouraging us to take responsibility, to operate with integrity, to show a degree of maturity, and really look at what we need to take care of, owning our own authority. And as Molly McCord puts it, how we are showing up in our own lives. Do we make promises and never live up to them? Or is our word basically our bond, so to speak? So if we say we're going to do something, we will actually do it. It's also important to, especially at this new moon, look at where we are tracking, because it is essentially the midpoint of the year. And as such, if you made New Year's resolutions, I personally don't, because I don't see the January being the first start of the year for me. If you make New Year's resolutions, how are you going with them? Are they still in alignment with you? If you haven't made New Year's resolutions, how in general is this year panning out for you? I know here in Adelaide, or in Australia in particular, I think it's the same all around the world, the global financial crisis is becoming to come to a head. We've had a lot of interest rate rises. The cost of living is going through the roof. The cost of utilities, gas, petrol, electricity, food, transport costs, rents. There's a huge shortage of housing. Don't understand how that sort of like just materialized almost out of nothing post-COVID, but there's a whole what can I say? There seems to be lots of life pressures all over the show. So how are you going? Especially any plans that you may have made at the beginning of the year, especially when they're in relation to our soul level, not sort of more the hedonistic stuff, but coming back to what really, truly matters to us and the direction that we are heading in. This sort of reached this midpoint. It's a bit, I've taken back. Oh my God, we're almost at the end of June already. We're at this midpoint of the year. So it's a good time to sort of just stop for a moment and reflect. Look at, especially with this super moon, look at what's being highlighted and whether or not that is in alignment with where we want to be heading. Due to the cost of living pressures, we may have had to put things off, change our course of action, and maybe even reprioritize our goals. We may have actually decided that, I know, maybe owning our own house is not the most important thing in our life at the moment. There are other things which are a little bit more important. It's also a good time to see whether you need some sort of spiritual course correction, so to speak, as I said, on this more spiritual level. Where are you heading? Again, all these sorts of things, the mundane world and the spiritual world are very much sort of woven at the moment. We need to look after the mundane. We need to have a roof over our head, food in our belly, feel secure. And that will carry through into our spiritual or our magical lives, because we can't really truly focus on sort of reaching spiritual goals if we are homeless or forever hungry or not feeling safe and secure. So you might need to sort of recalibrate, refocus on your goals and where you want to head into. And especially with, I suppose what's coming to mind for me, the situation is beyond our control. So don't sort of beat yourself up if you're having to take a course of action. Try and make the most of what you have. Maybe sort of like bring your world in a little bit more, your goals into a little bit more realistic perception as to the wider realm as well. So as I said, the moon is in Capricorn, which means that the sun is in Cancer. So this Cancer is a watery sign, it's a sign of the crab. And it's asking us, how do we feel? How do we feel about the direction in which we're heading in? Moon sort of asking us to sort of take this reevaluation. And now the sun in Cancer is asking us to sort of drop into our heart center, asking us, how do we feel? And what actually feels good, feels safe to us? Especially the Cancer crab is sort of almost bringing our awareness back to the home, what we call home. We feel safe and secure. So at the end of the day, when you return home, how does that make you feel? Cancer too, being emotional, watery, sort of like asking us to sort of tap back in to our own emotional self. This is, again, I can keep saying this. This is to me what embodiment means. It means in the body. What is our body telling us? Where do we feel safe and secure? Capricorn sort of represents the externals. It's all about work and setting out sort of big plans that will carry us through, like a legacy. So that's all the external stuff. Cancer is coming back to feeling home. So we might need to be looking at this balance between work and home. It is interesting to note that the sun in Cancer is actually trine. So that's a very positive angle with Saturn Saturn is in retrograde at the moment, and it is 7 degrees of Pisces. And Saturn is actually the ruler of Capricorn. It's the planetary ruler of Capricorn. So it will be retrograde to about November this year. And when planets go into retrograde, they're giving us an opportunity to stop, to review, to look at where we've gone, look at our boundaries in particular. Saturn is sort of the worker. It's also grinding us to say, look at where we're actually putting our energy, where we have been saying probably yes to things where we should be saying no. Maybe we're saying no to things where maybe we need to be saying yes, taking that opportunity. So what boundaries do we need to sort of look at, refresh, ascertain whether they are still in alignment with us, especially as the whole world's going through all these changes as well. And we also need to look at what we are building. Saturn's all about the work that will carry us through into the future. I did mention earlier about the legacy. What legacy are we going to leave behind? What are we going to build that will last? So it's important while we're taking this sort of break, sort of reflection that Saturn and retrograde is offering us. Try and understand what we need to let go of as well in order to move forward as the world's changing. We're in this sort of chaotic time. We're going through it for the last couple of years. Astrologers seem to think that we're going through it a few more years to come. We are coming out the other end, but things are changing. This is the only probably more constant in the world. Was it Oscar Wilde who said that is change? I don't know. But it is reassessing, looking at what we've been hanging on to. Is it still in alignment with us? Is it still beneficial to us and the direction that we're wanting to head into, or the direction that we need to head into at the moment? What needs to be cleared out of our lives? What do we no longer need? What? And when we're talking about boundaries and these things, they're not necessarily physical things. They could be emotional attachments, how we view our life. It could be people, it could be situations, it could be work, it could be anything. So we need to sort of like give our lives a bit of an overhaul at the moment. Also looking at how we are integrating these energies into our life so that they truly reflect you. This is one thing that I've noticed with over the last couple of years, or more than that, the interest in online courses and people wanting to sort of better themselves. They tend to rush from course to course, which maybe looks great on paper, but especially if you're working in the realms of energy, a lot of the stuff takes a while for it to integrate. And sometimes we just need to stop, reflect, and allow it to sit and move through us. Again, coming back to that embodiment that I was talking about earlier. So with the moon, it is trine, again, it's very positive, it's 90 degrees with Jupiter. Jupiter is in Taurus at the moment. So Taurus is the bull, Taurus is a very earthy sign. Jupiter is the planet of expansion. So this is very favorable. So it will be offering us the support in areas where we want to grow and want to develop, where we need to sort of get this job done. That maybe Saturn retrograde is asking us to reassess again in order to move forward. So we're going to be supported in what we want to do by Jupiter being in Taurus. Taurus also sort of isn't connected with money and finances. It's ruled by Venus, who's also connected with money and finances. So it could actually be asking us, look at what we want to invest in and making sure that our investments are tangible, that there's a very practical element to utilizing this energy coming up to this full moon as well. So this is going to be brief, an overview. It is a time to sort of check in because we're at this halfway point through the year, where we're heading, direction we want to head into in the future, are things in alignment, how we're actually feeling about things. Looking at our boundaries, looking at what we want to manifest, what we want to bring into our life over the next 6 months or so. Also, look at where we are heading in. Are we all sort of more hedonistic, or are we following our heart, our soul dreams? And I suppose most importantly, are things making sense to you? If not, again, maybe this is a time where we need to tap into that Saturn in retrograde and sort of stop and start refocusing on things. Now, we do have a change in the nodes of fate, or the nodal axis, which is the north node and the south node, later in or in mid-July. So I will be doing just a little update on that separately. We're moving at the moment, they are in Taurus and Scorpio, and they will be moving into Aries, being associated with the north node. So that's all about our future direction. And Libra, the scales, which is in relation to our karmic past. It's sort of connected with the south node. And the nodes are also connected with the eclipses. So it means that the eclipses will be fully on that axis as well. So I'll leave that for another time. I do hope you are well and look after yourself, and I'll see you again.